I'm live now. And of course I forgot to mute everything. This is that. Disturb. There we go. Alrighty. We are live, so let's go ahead and get started. It's been a couple weeks since I've been live, so yep. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Bob's Live, our weekly show right here on the internet. And well, it hasn't been quite weekly for the last few weeks. And that's because I have been working on a pretty massive project here at Bob's. In fact, it's been a project that I've been working on since, well, really it started last year. And that is getting a new phone system up and running. Our current phone system here at our headquarters was just about 10 years old, and it was really starting to show its age. And also, we just needed to upgrade it in preparation for some other network and system upgrades that we have here. But we're also rolling out this phone system to all of our stores, which means that as far as you're concerned, you should be able to have a lot easier communication with us here at Bob's. For example, if you call a store and you need to be transferred here, that process is now a lot more streamlined on the back end. And yeah, other than that, I had a little health thing going on too, so yeah, it's been an interesting couple of weeks. But that being said, I have a packed show for you this week because we've got some catching up to do. I want to take a look at right now a seasonal plant that we have at our markets that is native to this area. Then I also want to share something that's going to be happening later this week and kind of give you a preview of that. And then finally, I want to take you to my house and my garden to give you a look at it and some of the changes that I'm doing there. Last year, we did a bunch of episodes out in my garden and also my meadow garden project, and this year I'm making a bunch of changes with that. So yeah, before I move on, Patty says she just got a hanging basket from Mason and it's gorgeous. So right now, and of course you can see them behind my noggin here, these actually just took a few weeks ago, but right now we're fully stocked with our hanging baskets. So, well, we're not quite fully stocked yet. We're still getting in hanging baskets, but we already have an amazing selection to choose from. So if you're looking for Boston ferns, macho ferns, the mixed petunia and calibrachoa hanging baskets, and then other baskets, we've got a pretty good selection now. And then heading into Mother's Day, we're going to have a lot of the specialty baskets and different things like that. So definitely keep an eye out for that at our markets. And speaking of markets, I was down at our Mason market just yesterday to record our first segment. And it is the topic of this week's show. So if you saw the title heading into the live broadcast, we're going to be talking about creeping phlox. So let's jump a day back in time and take a look at some creeping phlox at our Mason market. This morning I'm down here at our Mason market where we have creeping phlox. And creeping phlox is a herbaceous perennial that is actually native to this area. So its range is kind of in the Appalachian Mountains, and it stretches from Pennsylvania down to Georgia. So these make a great choice for some early spring color. They tend to start blooming really right about now, sort of mid to late April, and they'll bloom for about 6 weeks, and then you can trim them back and sometimes encourage a second bloom. And once they finish blooming, they'll just kind of turn green and make some nice green ground cover for the rest of the summer. So these make a great choice for borders and rocky areas and along retaining walls and different areas like that. As the name creeping phlox implies, they are a spreading plant. So they'll spread out to about 1 to 2 feet in diameter around where you initially plant them. So you want to plant them about 15 to 20 inches apart, and that'll give them room to spread out. Once your creeping phlox are established, another thing that you can do is actually split them so you get more creeping phlox. So creeping phlox, it is an amazing ground cover plant, and as I said in the video, it is native to this area. So its range is from Pennsylvania down to Georgia, and it likes really kind of those rocky areas and also really sandy soil. Something that I couldn't show you in the video is what it looks like after it finishes blooming, because you might be tempted to use it in a large bed and plant a huge swath of it, but it will eventually stop blooming once you get into summertime. So you have to kind of keep in mind what it'll look like then and kind of work that into your landscape plan. So pictured right here, yep, right there. That's what it looks like after it finishes blooming in the springtime. So it kind of looks almost like a low growing moss. It's a little bit taller than that, but you do get that nice green fill. So it works great for borders and different areas like that where you get this blast of color in the springtime, especially right now where, you maybe, well, because of the potential of frost, you probably haven't planted your summer annuals yet. So you get this early blast of color, and then once the blooms fade, you're left with this beautiful green fill. So you can kind of play off that and use it as a border. So once it finishes blooming, you get this nice green backdrop, and it can kind of blend in and maybe form like a nice transition along the edge of beds. I know in my meadow garden, I'm actually thinking of incorporating some phlox in, kind of along one side of it, kind of at the end of it, and possibly working in like a statue or something like that, some sort of focal point uh, that the Phlox could kind of frame up. So yeah, that's where my mind's kind of going with it. Is you can use it to kind of frame something in the springtime, and then also use that greenery to your advantage going into the summertime. Um, the next thing that I wanted to share with you this week is something that's going to be on TV this coming Friday. So on Friday, um, we're going to be featured on Channel 8 and I think Channel 11. It's WCHS. Um, if you've ever seen the road tripping segments um, with Terry Burhans, so they were up at our Belpre Market last week to film a segment, and it's going to be on this Friday. So they shared with us some video that they said we were free to share and use. And the segment that I chose to share this week on our live Bob's Live episode is an interview with our manager at Belpre, John Neff. And John, he's been involved with Bob's Market for really almost his entire life. He started working at Bob's when he was in high school, and now he's the manager there at our Belpre store. And he's, if you're from the Belpre area, you've probably met John. He's really involved in the community. So I thought we would let him sort of explain or share how he came to be involved with Bob's Market, and it'll also give us a look at what's happening at our Belpre store. So, well, let's check that out.
Let's go road tripping. We'll breathe the mountain air. Road tripping is sponsored by Bob's Market and Greenhouses Incorporated. We're road tripping with John Neff. You're the manager. You're the plant manager.
Well, this is one of several retail locations for Bob's Market and Greenhouses. Everyone's tired and have cabin fever. They're ready to get out and play in their yard.
Get dirt in their fingernails and plant and get all these varieties you have of so many. You just didn't start yesterday. Tell us a little bit about your history.
Well, I was introduced to Bob's Market back in April of 1994. My mother owns a shop on this property as well, and she was renting from the same landlord what Bob started with, and I just became hooked. I watched the guys unload trucks and water plants and help customers, and I've never left since then, so I'm still with them. That's been 27 years ago. We sponsor or help build a greenhouse for the Belpre High School. They have a botany class. We provide them with merchandise and stuff to get their hands dirty and seed to grow and stuff. We do lots of community involvement, different groups in town. We help out. We kind of are the overseers of the park baskets, so we keep Belpre in color, in bloom, is what we like to say. Yes, we have a 6,000 square foot market that is full of locally grown, in-season produce. Right now, we're waiting on the first tomatoes and stuff come out of the south. We did get some cantaloupes and watermelons, North Carolina strawberries, so we're pretty heavy into produce during the in-season period. When you ask a question, we'll have an answer for you.
Let's go road tripping to Bob's Market and Greenhouses.
Let's go road.
All right, so that was a quick segment from Road Trippin'. You can check that out this Friday morning on Channel 8. And yeah, of course, you can follow Bob's Market. We're available on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and a lot more. So head over to our website at bobsmarket.com and you can find all the social media channels that we're on. We're also on TikTok now, so you can find us there too. Finally, this week, I wanted to kind of give you a quick update of the meadow garden. So, at my house, I have kind of one end of my property that was always just this huge plot of grass that took forever to mow. And a couple years ago, I thought, why keep mowing it? So, I've been kind of on a quest over the last 2 years to kind of transform it into a meadow. And I want to leave a large portion of it just kind of grassy meadow, but I also want to mix in things like wildflowers and bushes and trees, um, mainly fruit trees. That way it kind of becomes a natural retreat both for me, but also for birds and pollinators. And right now, actually, a lot of little voles and field mice that have kind of moved into the area. So whenever I head out there, I kind of hear them scurrying around. But I thought we would take a look at it and its progress and some of the changes that I'm planning on making both to it and to my garden over the coming year. This evening, I'm out here in my meadow garden, and it is starting to shape up for this year. So last spring, or well, kind of in the middle of the winter time, I came out and kind of walked around and got ideas for what I wanted to do with the garden, because I wanted to kind of change the shape of it. Last year it was basically a large rectangle with some paths mowed through it, and I wanted to make it look a little bit more natural. So I started to do a few things to help with that, and I'm also getting ready to add a huge patch of wildflowers. So let's take a look at some of the changes that I'm making. Probably one of the biggest changes is this area right here that I've tilled up. And actually, I'm going to extend the tilled area over into that growth to kind of make it a little bit more of a natural shape, because I have this straight line here which was part of the old square layout. But this area is going to be a massive wildflower patch, and I'm hoping to attract some pollinators and some birds. Out here along the front, I have kind of curved this area so it's less of a square, and it also follows the path of the existing wildflower patch that I put in last year. So speaking of those wildflowers, right here, some of them that are coming up, and then I have a few more down through here. And my plan is to extend this bed out and kind of arc it around that way and then back. And then right in behind it right here, I would like to put a butterfly bush and let it kind of get really big and kind of make a nice statement here in behind the wildflowers. Speaking of wildflowers, I had a ton of wild violets that came up this year. And in fact, the walkways in the garden, in between mowings, it kind of turns into a nice purple carpet. And here on the back side, I still have kind of this nice straight edge, and it kind of continues out to the new area there. But what I'm kind of planning on doing back here is possibly extending this area out and kind of just doing a tilled up area with maybe zinnias or something like that planted in it. Finally, one last change that I'm making isn't to the meadow garden, but to my vegetable garden. All of this area right here is going to be grass. I decided this last year that taking care of this huge garden was just way, way, way too much. So I'm actually going to reduce my garden by about 50%. And I'm also planning on putting in raised beds. So this remaining 50% of the garden, about half of that is going to be turned into raised beds. And my long-term plan is to have some raised beds in this end with mulch around them and maybe a nice little white picket fence around it. Also, Mr. and Mrs. Killdeer have come back, and they like to build a nest in my garden. So they'll be happy this year that I'm not tilling up this section. But they are never very happy with me. Oh, there they are. That's both of them. They usually chase me around the yard while I'm mowing. Oh no, is that the nest? That's in the garden. Ooh. So yeah, my little killdeers, they come back every year and usually build a nest either in the garden or in the gravel driveway in front of our house. Which killdeers, if you've ever seen a killdeer nest, they are master nest builders. Um, they basically just make a pile of twigs and rocks and lay their eggs on it. So it's amazing. Um, so yeah, I've decided to kind of transition to raised beds, which it's going to be a whole new experience for me. I grew up learning kind of the old school gardening technique of victory gardening, where it's just, laser straight rows, you till up the whole section. So it's a huge amount of labor to keep that area tilled and keep it weeded. And with the size of garden that I had, and really just, you know, the requirements of life in general, um, I didn't have the amount of time that I needed to invest into a space that big. So I've decided to shrink my garden down, and that way I'm not wasting time and energy on crops that, like, well, last year I planted 6 rows of corn, and most of it went to the raccoons. So the raccoons, they actually climbed up the stalks and literally just pulled the husks right off the corn and munched on them right there in the garden. So most of my corn last year was a total loss. So my plan is to eventually have a nice little area with raised beds that's fenced in, and then have a smaller plot next to it that's tilled up where I can still plant row crops like, like Blue Lake bush beans that I like to can, and maybe a couple rows of corn, but nothing crazy. And I'm also, going to cut out some of the crops that I grew that we really didn't harvest as much as we should have to eat. So it's going to kind of force me to downsize a little bit. And that's going to eliminate a lot of stuff going to the compost pile, basically. So it's going to be a new experience for me. It'll definitely create some new content uh, for Bob's Live. And, well, I'm in the process of planning that out. I've got the lumber for the raised beds. I'm planning on putting down ground cloth and then putting mulch on top of it around the raised beds so I don't have to mow in around them. Also because I eventually want to fence that area in. And also maybe incorporate some smaller containers of vegetables. So that's what I'm looking at going into the future. So I'll definitely be doing updates throughout the summer as I continue along with my gardening projects at home. So, well, that is all that I have for this week. Um, the only last thing that I want to talk about is over on our website. So, on our website at bobsmarket.com, we sell gift cards. And the way we process those is if you purchase a gift card on our website, um, obviously for our stores, um, the way those get processed is I'll take the gift card invoice, take it down to our local store here at Mason, actually generate the gift card, and then send it out in the mail to the recipient. So if you purchase a gift card, you can either get it sent to yourself, if you want to make it a part of a larger gift, or you can specify a gift recipient and their address and a little message if you want to add in a message, and we can mail it direct to the gift recipient. The reason why I'm saying this is because we're coming up on Mother's Day, and we send out our gift cards by U.S. Postal Service first class mail, and basically I want to leave enough of a buffer in there that late orders that they actually make it to the customers by Mother's Day. So this week is basically the last week that I can say, pretty much yes, that if you purchase a gift card, it'll get to where it needs to go before Mother's Day. So if you're interested in doing that, you can head over to bobsmarket.com, and then we have a store section, and literally the only thing you can purchase in our store on the website is gift cards. And that's because of taxes, but that's a whole other thing. I don't want to get into the complexities of web design and sales tax. But that is all that I have for this week. So until next time, keep growing. Hey, I almost forgot. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe, hit the like button, and somewhere around here a suggested video should be showing up. I was going to show on camera that I do have bags of wildflower seeds that I'm going to be planting at the house, but I realized, hey, they're green bags, which means that they're invisible on camera. So, okay. Yep. Well, have a great week.